X-ray 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We don't want to report.
Look, it wasn't my worst Wednesday night.
Hello, welcome to another edition of Anomaly-NOW. I'm your host, Smiles Lewis. This is the mostly weekly, very rarely live news and media roundup show for the 501c3 nonprofit Scientific Anomaly Institute, aka the Anomaly Archives. Greetings, welcome. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this quote unquote live or Memorex or the video version or listening to the audio only version. You can go to our website, anomalyarchives.org, and find all kinds of information about our nonprofit, its goals of preservation and public education on all things anomalous. And you can find the show notes for every single episode of Anomaly-NOW since its inception in 2020. It is Wednesday, January 28th, 2026. Let's dive right in. So I like to highlight material that is available online for free that folks might want to examine, explore. And one of the things I wanted to remind folks is that we, the Anomaly Archives, were graced with the opportunity to offer the wonderful finale issue of Houston Sky magazine. That's the newsletter Houston Sky that was published back in the 1990s, 11 issues of it by our good friend Gail Neeson. And she has put together and printed and put out into the world the 12th issue, the finale, final issue, long overdue, but long worth the wait. A really amazingly interesting time capsule of a publication that highlights both the ideas of big name UFO researchers, even some debunkers circa 30 years ago, and what they have concluded about the nature of the UFO phenomena, and bringing it up to date with a lot of new information. And we've uploaded copies of this online. You can download a PDF of it if you'd like to read it, or you can try to reach out to her at the contact information available there at our website, anomalyarchives.org. Just search for Houston Sky, and you'll find information about that. And we have uploaded it to one of these websites, and for the time being, it is still available. That is the issuu.com, issuu.com website, where you can tab through it and experience the full 2-page layout, style, and design that Gail created for her readers. And I enjoy reading PDFs online through this mechanism, and you can zoom in and move around and take a look at that information that's out there. And yeah, we were honored to be featured in some of the material there. So check that out over at anomalyarchives.org. Let's see. Some other great new online publications that are available for free include the SSE, the Society for Scientific Exploration's new journal, the JSE. Oh, actually, well, the JSE is not for free. That is a paid subscription publication, but you can check out, where is that? The Explorer. This is their monthly online free newsletter publication, and there's a number of interesting articles. I think I mentioned this in the last show a week or so ago, but also now online is the parapsychology organization mindfieldbulletin.org. That's mindfieldbulletin.org. And their issue 17, Dark Tourism and Legend Tripping, is now available. Legend tripping being a way to describe, exploring folklore and myth and the stories of place, just how all these different locations around the United States, North America, and the world have sometimes embraced, often for commerce, economic reasons, the local folklore, whether it be cryptids, monsters, or classic UFO cases. It is a good way for local communities to try and, get a little back. Since so many of us are really interested in this and love, swag, whether it's a Mothman t-shirt or some other cryptid plushy stuffed animal or, stickers and that sort of thing. It can all be in good fun. Though who knows what the town of Roswell, would do once they discovered the real truth about what may or may not have happened there so many decades ago. But yeah, you can go get this 17th issue of Mindfield Bulletin over at mindfieldbulletin.org. Also, now available after a long wait is Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks, the documentary produced with our good friend Adam Gorightly from his book of the same title. Would highly encourage folks to go check this out. It is available at Saucers, Spooks, and Kooks.vhx.tv. Basically, it's a Vimeo site, and you can rent or buy this documentary and watch it online. It was just released this past week, and boy, I'm so glad that I sat down and watched it. So much great information. Such a crazy, tangled web was weaved by these spiders. And by the spiders, I mean the Mirage Men, the disinfo, misinfo artists, such as they are, that seem to have so polluted the American zeitgeist, the American culture and global culture with these myths of underground bases, alien bases, hybrids, bodies in vats, cattle mutilations, alien abduction, the whole gamut. It's a fascinating look into the birth of a modern UFO myth, close to the subtitle of Greg Bishop, his book Project Beta, which Greg Bishop is featured in this, Chris Lambright's featured in this, a number of great people are featured in this, and it's well worth your time and money. I personally am very much glad I bought a copy, pre-ordered, and am very much looking forward to rewatching it again and again. So you might find that interesting. Meanwhile, in the UFO realm, I think last time I've mentioned this fellow a couple of times, Jason Somoza. That's Samosa, Somoza. And he has been doing a series of deep dives on Jacques Vallée as revealed through Jacques' journals, all 6 volumes. And I must say, I'm really enjoying Jason's exploration of Jacques' work and his deep dives into trying to suss out what Vallée really is revealing in all of these books and cross-referencing it with other material. I have noticed occasionally he gets some very small details wrong, but the things I'm thinking of are actually understandable in terms of a couple of different military people that have almost identical names. But in this episode put out on the 24th, titled The CIA Puppet Master Playing Both Sides of the UFO PSYOP, Vallée was right. He goes into a lot of information, and it is a deep dive on Ron Pandolfi, the alleged longtime head of the CIA's Weird Desk, who Jason and others are more or less sussing out as possibly the quote-unquote CIA puppet master playing both sides of the UFO PSYOP. Again, a lot of details revealed from Jacques Vallée's Forbidden Science journals, volumes 1 through 6, particularly volumes 5 and 6, but also going as far back as 3, I think, in this episode. Of course, he has a Patreon, but he ultimately makes all this material available on his YouTube channel. That's where this is. And yeah, you can go check that out. This particular one's just under an hour long, but there are a couple of others that are shorter and longer and definitely worth your time. So you may want to go check that out. Now, notice the title of that. The CIA puppet master playing both sides of the UFO PSYOP. Yeah, so that's what I noticed over at the International Business Times. That's ibtimes.co.uk. I've been seeing a lot of material on UFOs, UAP, coming out of this strange newsletter, this digital newspaper, ibtimes.co.uk, International Business Times UK. And notice the title of this one, CIA Puppet Master Accused of Running Both Sides of the UFO PSYOP, a deep dive into Dr. Ronald Pandolfi's mysterious role in shaping UFO secrecy and influencing intelligence programs by Crisnell Longino. Crisnal Longino, dated January 26th, a couple of days after Jason put out his video. And basically, it's a rehash of that material, in a long form, a short, in a print form, such as it is, a digital online form, a textual form. So now, and I don't see, do you see any link to this person's material? Does it say Jason anywhere in here? No, Jason, no samosa. That's interesting. So no citation. Sources tracing his career. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on. But that article's there, an article version of the previously mentioned material, and yeah. So what else we got? Oh, we've got this one over at Substack.com. This is the Substack of what's his name, Jeffrey Cruikshank. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Jeffrey. This is dated January 25th. U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff Emergency War Plan, quote unquote, Majestic, for a war starting July 1st, 1952. PSYOPs, unconventional warfare, and deception operations that line up with the quote unquote burned memo directives of 1961. Subtitle: CIA Director Alan Dulles' concern about JFK's inquiries regarding Majestic 12 activities prompted a rewrite of the plan for the quote-unquote unlikely event UFOs revealed themselves, or if JFK shared secrets. Now, I am of the opinion, as I think most reputable, respected UFO researchers, a few are the exception, that the classic Majestic 12, MJ12 documents are fakes. That's not to say that they couldn't possibly be recreations in a fanciful form of some real UFO-related, extraterrestrial-related contingency plans. It's my understanding, it's been a long time, I had to have to dig up the references, but that there were some documents that referenced a Majestic, but that they were PSYOP plans and that they didn't seem to have anything to do with UFOs or extraterrestrials. Now, I haven't had the chance really to dig into this. I know, I say that all the time. There's just so much, folks. I do my best. But I'm very interested to see this article. I'm not familiar with this writer. And yeah, we'll have to check it out. So yeah, okay. Meanwhile, back at the IB Times, Crisnal Longino, at it again, January 26th. Inside America's hidden quote-unquote Majestic war plan built for UFO disclosure and mass deception. Newly examined records suggest Majestic was less about aliens attacking and more about managing truth. Okay, yeah, I'm just scrolling through it. I'm scrolling. Oh, only fragments of Majestic have survived public release. Oh, it looks like, yes, this at least cites, it appears to cite that same article that we were just sharing with you. Okay, well, at least there's a citation there to the source material. Oh, okay. Crisnal. Crisnal? What is, I'm sorry, Crisnal. Doesn't that sound like Criswell? Criswell, psychic from the old days, black and white film like Plan 9 from Outer Space. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Moving right along is They Rode the Flying Saucers has finally been released. This was a UFO documentary about the contactees that I was long waiting to see released. It is now available on YouTube. It is an unlisted URL, but I don't know that it's not intended to be viewed publicly. So we're putting a link to it. They Rode the Flying Saucers, the story of the contactees, their rise and fall. And I'm very much looking forward to it. There is Aaron Gulius, a much younger Aaron Gulius. This has been in production for years, and I'm just glad that it's finally seemingly been completed. Maybe this is a rough cut that isn't actually supposed to be being distributed, but I'm pretty sure it's already out there. It's a film by Patrick Connolly. Oh, look, there's a young Nick Redfern, younger than the last time I saw him. We wish you well, Nick. Anyway, yes, this is an hour and 40 minutes. You'll definitely want to go check it out. It looks like it's in about 6 parts. Part 1, They Come in Peace. The Three Georges, Georgia Dempsey, George Hunt Williamson, and I forget the other one. Part 2, Religious Beatniks. Part 3, Lasting Impressions. Part 4, Serious People. Part 5, A Darker Turn. And Part 6, The Coming of a New Age. So very much looking forward to watching this. Oh, yep, and there's Greg. Greg Bishop is in this as well. Yeah, this should be a lot of fun. Can't wait to watch this. It might not stay up, or it might be made private soon, so better go watch it as soon as you can. And then over at, what site is this? Yes, AboveTheNormNews.com. We have this article, Did Scientists Just Uncover a Hidden UFO Detection System, by David Freeman, dated January 23rd. And this is an interesting report on efforts to track objects entering Earth's atmosphere through seismic data. The researchers behind the work were not military insiders. So, yeah, this article starts, there's a part of the UFO story that almost no one ever bothers to examine. People argue over cockpit videos. They parse muffled radio calls. They cling to radar screenshots with more noise than signal. Every debate circles the same question. How do you track something the government will not talk about? The answer has been sitting under our feet. Excuse me. The Earth is a sensor. It listens to everything that moves through the atmosphere at high speed. It always has. A new scientific paper has finally shown the public how to read those signals. The researchers behind the work were not military insiders. They were not aerospace contractors or classified analysts. They were two academics from Johns Hopkins University and Imperial College London. They used nothing but public seismic data, the same earthquake logs anyone can download. They ran an analysis on the April 2024 reentry of the Shenzhou 15 orbital module, a large spacecraft that fell back to Earth over California. The result changed the conversation entirely. What they published was not a study on debris. It was a blueprint for tracking fast objects that enter the atmosphere, no matter their origin. Now, of course, the thing that I keep thinking is, well, so many UFO reports have these unbelievable, speeds and accelerations and sharp, impossible turns, most of which, if these were some kind of conventional aircraft, would create sonic booms. And so any explanation for the origins of these sightings has to account for that. And I thought, well, so how is that going to be applied to this situation? Each station the article goes on, each station recorded a timestamp. Each timestamp carried distance and direction. When the researchers lined up the data, the path of the object appeared segment by segment, a clear line from the coastline to the Nevada desert. The shockwave pattern also revealed the speed. By analyzing how the hyperbolic arrival curves spread across the region, the team matched velocities between Mach 25 and Mach 30. They identified a descent angle as the object dropped deeper into the atmosphere. They measured the N-wave that indicated a hypersonic body interacting with dense air. They detected a sequence of fragmentation pulses, 8 to 11 of them, each separated by fractions of a second, revealing that the module tore itself apart over a 2-second window. They, at some point, I'm trying to find where they deal with what I'm saying here. Here we go. This is where the UFO angle becomes unavoidable. If a spacecraft creates a shockwave signature this strong, then anything else moving through the atmosphere at comparable speeds will do the same. UFO reports are filled with descriptions of fast acceleration, silent motion, and abrupt direction changes. When an object accelerates through the air, the atmosphere responds with pressure waves. Even if the craft produces no audible boom, the ground may still feel the pulse. I'm not as versed as these fellows, I'm sure, and so I'm going to take their word for that, and I'm very excited by this. You can read the rest of this over at AboveTheNormNews.com. It does link, I believe, yes, to the science.org paper, Reconstructing Atmospheric Reentry Trajectories Using Seismic Networks, over at science.org. And this article is over at AboveTheNormNews.com and is titled, Did Scientists Just Uncover a Hidden UFO Detection System? By David Freeman. Good job. Very interesting. And back to the IB Times. I will say, what I do appreciate about this Crisnell, Longino, Gino, whatever they, her, him's name they are, if they are a real person, and I'm really beginning to doubt it, they are bringing me, drawing my awareness to things that I may have missed, but also a lot of these articles I'm finding through, of course, Anomalous.com. Highly recommend Anomalous.com. Scientists reveal lightning can spawn UFO-like plasmoids in shocking experiments. This is all based on a new book, which, again, the source material is linked here. A major scientific book on the phenomenology of lightning now includes an explicit chapter on UFO-like events, arguing that many reports could be rooted in real atmospheric plasma rather than extraterrestrials. On page 68, the description of lightning-borne fireballs is so precise that it mirrors modern footage of the Tic Tac object struck by a missile and seemingly unharmed. And they do link to that book, and I am very curious about it, because basically what this idea is kind of similar to the old idea put forth by skeptic debunker Phil Klass that many or most UFOs were in fact some kind of plasma phenomena, and that they're just misidentifying this natural phenomena as being some kind of intelligently controlled or directed technology. And various researchers like astrophysicist Massimo Teodarani and others have long speculated that there could be an intelligent living plasma, that maybe UFOs represent some kind of space critter or some atmospheric critter. And plasmas have all kinds of amazing and important and interesting aspects that do seem to be explored by this book. Again, yeah, I meant to open that. And here is the book over at novapublishers.com, Phenomenology of the Ball of Lightning and its Relevance for Other Enigmas of Nature. You can buy a copy there, and it does list the table of contents, ball and lightning models, short review, experiments potentially informative for the ball lightning genesis, current status of the concept of self-organization, experimental device and results, conceptual model of the ball lightning, explanation of the ball lightning observational characteristics, self-organization and the origins of UFOs, dynamical self-organization and the origin of life, biophoton emission and intercellular communication, and final remarks, references, and index. Now, this dynamical self-organization and origin of life, I believe it was in a UFO anthology published over a decade ago that I think was either in 1987, maybe. If 97 was the 50th anniversary, anyway, it was like the 40th anniversary, I think, of the birth of the modern UFO era, June, July 1947, Kenneth Arnold sighting and the Roswell crash. There was an article about Earthlights and an essay about Earthlights in that anthology, I believe. And I believe that was the first place I think I ever came across this idea that Earthlights or some kind of plasma phenomena could be connected to the self-organizing birth of life on this planet. Speculative, but I have since seen other references to this idea. Of course, I think before that, just this idea that somehow lightning, and lightning obviously being plasma, and ball lightning being spherical contained lightning of a sort, plasma. Lightning was long thought to be the genesis possible for all these biosludge, this potential, these amino acids or whatever. I'm probably using the wrong terminology. Anyway, you can check that out. I'm very curious about this book, Phenomenology of the Ball Lightning and its Relevance for Other Enigmas of Nature. And I'm glad to have been made aware of it by Crisnell Longino over at the IBT, International Business Times.co.uk. If that's your real, if you are a real person. I'll come back to this issue in just a bit here. Meanwhile, over at medium.com, Julia Mossbridge is putting out some great material. She's recently appeared on a vodcast show with an interesting title. Let me see if I can find. Yes. Was I a CIA experiment? Remote viewing and psychic abilities with neuroscientists from telepathy tapes. She's a guest on that show, but yes, here over at her blog, jmossbridge.medium.com. Welcome to the Inspiracy. Nice. Nicely played. there is a collection of her articles on Soargate, SOAR. Now, I think we've commented, and there's been lots of online chatter for years, but it's really intensified in the last couple of years. This idea that there were all these different special education programs in various elementary schools and high schools, or maybe at least middle schools and elementary schools, that people now suspect may have been some kind of extension of the CIA's MK Ultra programs and trying to look for psychically gifted children, or possibly just gifted children that were just, potential geniuses that would be great recruits into the three-letter agency milieu. But yes, over at her website, Julia Mossbridge writes, I wrote a short but apparently impactful book that's half experiential science, techno, love, mysticism, and half disclosure about my experience in a gifted education class in the early 80s in Libertyville, Illinois called SOAR, SOAR. SOAR was apparently an unconsented experiment, screening, training process for certain smart and creative children, and it seems to share some characteristics with later versions of gifted education in public schools, like GATE, TAG, and LEAP. On Mayim Bialik's breakdown, I talked for the first time to a large audience about the dread I felt in mysterious quote-unquote counseling sessions, as well as the memory loss related to the dread, the weird hearing tests that weren't hearing tests, the pink, chalky, viscous drink that may be related to the forgetting. And it turns out some of these experiences resonated with readers who gave me permission to share their experiences here. So this is her archive of material on that. I am so intrigued by this because I feel like there's been a lot of just people telling their stories and lots of speculation and very little trying to, do some digging and see what can be proven about any of these stories. I doubt that these are made up by most of these people. There could be misrememberings, but just what little I've teased you with there that she wrote at the beginning of this archive has me intrigued. So welcome to the conspiracy indeed. Keeping with the mind control conspiracy angle, over at Hidden Histories, that's Jeffrey K's website blog over at Substack. The 39 intercepts. The NSA should have evidence that would prove the U.S. Air Force bombed North Korea and China with biological weapons during the Korean War. Now, why do I mention this in the context of mind control? Well, because this is the origins of sorts of the modern brainwashing of America about the nature of brainwashing. My quick elevator speech version of this is that, to the best of my knowledge, you may recall that there were some American soldiers who were captured by the North Koreans during the Korean conflict, Korean War, who appeared on American television clearly under duress and having probably been tortured and or sleep deprived and God knows what else, who were claiming that, yes, the Americans had used biological weapons against the Koreans and others in the region. And we later learn, or were told by the American government military apparatus, that these men had been brainwashed by these Eastern powers, these Chinese and Korean military and government influencers, to lie about this claim that we had bombed and used biological weapons. I would say that the evidence points to all sides doing this. But whatever the truth, this particular researcher, Jeffrey K., is trying to use FOIA and Freedom of Information Act requests to get these documents. And he seems to have found information that indicates that, yes, these documents are available. The proof is there, but it is not being released. I'm sure there's a lot more to the story. It's a nice, long article that is going to take some time to digest, but that's why I bring this up, because of this, how it connects also to possibly later down the line. In a different vein, you have the Japanese Unit 731 the story about how Joseph Mengele, their horrific research into chemical and biological weapons and their testing of these things on unwitting victims who were both the disabled, the handicapped, as well as prisoners of war from other countries, and how there could be a connection to Roswell through Nick Redfern's book, Body Snatchers in the Desert, and later the Roswell Conspiracy, that indicate that what really went down in Roswell and has been covered up in various ways, including calling it cover-up of a crashed extraterrestrial, interdimensional flying saucer, whatever, that it somehow connects to the United States importation of those Japanese scientists as a kind of East Coast version of the Project Paperclip importation of the Nazis into America post-World War II. Horrific stuff. And I'm always glad to see when people are trying to dig deeper into that and find out the reality. Now, shifting gears to cryptozoology, we have over at bfro.net report number 79672, Class A, submitted by witness Andrew Bird on Wednesday, January 14, 2026. And this basically involves the claim of a person who was a Marine doing exercises at the base there in Quantico, Virginia, years ago. And this has now gotten some semi-bigger reportage on I believe, a sports website. We'll put the link in the show notes, but this basically says, date unknown, month July, season summer, county Stafford County in Virginia. This incident occurred on Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia, in a restricted military training area near the MOUT, Military Operations in Urban Terrain Training Town. The patrol originated from the MOUT town at approximately, I guess that's longitude, latitude. This is the location where we initially experienced the compass disorientation anomaly while attempting to navigate out of the area at night. Interesting. After realizing we had somehow looped back to our starting area, we cut a new azimuth and moved toward a different pickup location. The encounter with the creature occurred approximately 15 to 20 minutes later in a wooded area near, and then it gives, again, coordinates. The actual sighting location would be within approximately 200 yards of the second coordinate in dense woods. Both locations are inside a controlled military training area with restricted access, not open to the public. You may not go there without official permission and escort. I am providing these coordinates for research and documentation purposes. Nearest town, Quantico, Virginia. Nearest road, dirt road, 200 yards, highway. Oh, and it doesn't list the actual distance. What was observed? In the summer of 2005, I was stationed at Marine Corps Base, Quantico, Virginia, working as part of the opposing force OPFOR for the basic school infantry officers course. I was there over 3 years. During one of the multi-week field training exercises in the Mount Town training area, myself and 2 other Marines were instructed to leave the town at night and move on foot through the woods to link up with a vehicle at a designated pickup point approximately 500 to 700 meters away. The area was considered an active training area with students operating and using blank ammunition. Because of this, we were moving quietly with flashlights off. There was little to no moonlight, and none of us had night vision devices. All 3 of us were non-commissioned officers with several years of training and experience, and we had operated in these woods many times before. Let's see. Approximately 15 to 20 minutes into this second movement, we heard a loud sound to our left, like a tree cracking or falling. Concerned about the possibility of a falling tree, we turned on our flashlights and looked in that direction. We observed 2 trees next to each other, bending toward one another. When we looked up, approximately 20 to 30 feet above the ground, we saw a large, hairy creature with its back facing us. The creature appeared to be pulling the 2 trees together. The hair was a brown or reddish-brown color. I could not determine whether it had climbed the tree or was already in it, but it was clearly manipulating both trees with great strength. These are not small trees. The creature was large, approximately 8+ feet in height, with a large body, far larger than a person, and its proportions and movement did not resemble a human. At that moment, I froze. I was the 3rd person in our file. The Marine in front of me immediately started running. The second Marine shouted something and also started running. I turned my flashlight off because we were still in the training area and began running after them. As we ran, we heard a very heavy thud and then fast-moving pursuit behind us. There were loud crashing and breaking sounds like something large moving rapidly through dense brush. This continued for approximately 20 to 30 seconds. At that point, I yelled for the Marine in front to turn on his light so we could move as fast as possible without falling. We turned our lights on and ran at full speed in the general direction of where we believed the road and pickup point were, no longer using our compasses. After approximately 5 minutes of running, we reached the vehicle. We jumped in and urgently told the driver to leave immediately. What we saw was not a black bear or any known animal in the area. Black bears in Quantico are relatively small. That would not explain the size and the way the creature was holding onto the trees with long arms, and the strength required to bend the trees together, and the speed and power of the movement we heard pursuing us through dense forest. This figure did not resemble a person in any way. I do not believe a human could have been in that position or moved that way. The distance from us to the creature when we observed it was approximately 20 yards. The event has stayed with me for 20 years. I have never encountered anything before or since that explains what we saw that night. Interesting. All right. Yeah, that's over at bfro.net and lots of other reports there as well. There's also this other article, birminghammail.co.uk, Bigfoot sighting at Cannock Chase as dad says, it moved so fast. The dad believes he saw the fabled beast charging through woodland, and it wasn't the first sighting at the Staffordshire beauty spot. Now, if I'm not mistaken, and I don't have my British geography all in my head very well, but I believe Cannock Chase is also associated with the area where the Bentwaters RAF, the classic British Roswell case occurred, and that Professor Simon Holland has done lots of reporting on. And I think he recently has some other very strange reports of cryptid type creatures seen in the area. But yeah, you can read all about this over at birminghammail.co.uk. And let's see. Yeah, so I mentioned free publications, and I highly recommend Anomalous.com is a great daily news source for all things anomalous. Really love the work that Patrick Weege and his crew do over there. That is where I get a lot of my news leads, and, I come across stuff organically, but that's also where I go knowing that I'm going to find some stuff that I probably haven't seen before. And that's also where I've been seeing a lot of links to this International Business Times journalist alleged. But no, so over at anomalous.com today, there's a lot of interesting links to articles about UFOs, and that journalist alleged, I think it's AI, folks. I think it's not a real person. But yeah, there's this interesting bit from Vice News. Australia's ocean glitch is a weird wave vortex nobody can fully explain. You can go check this out. Here we go, over at vice.com. Australia's ocean glitch is a weird wave vortex nobody can fully explain. And this still picture here kind of captures a bit of it. There in the article is a link to a YouTube video that goes into more of this, but you can kind of see here something. Basically, these surfers encountered this strange exploding wave phenomena quite a ways off the coast of Australia, and 10 years ago, and caught footage of it, or a photo of it, and it basically seemed to be like two waves coming together in a way that seemed anomalous and resulted in this huge upwell of water after there seemed to be a pit of nothingness below it at the center. And you can kind of see in this thumbnail here, in the center is this very rock-looking thing, but it's a depression, and that's where all these waves are coming together, and then this massive sploosh happens. You've got to watch the video. This isn't that anomalous. It seems anomalous. They have some oceanographers and wave specialists that are like, yeah, this is pretty strange. But there is a video you can watch of it that is this linked video there on YouTube. But what it really seems like is it's quite a ways off the coast. It does seem to be associated with some kind of reef, which of course there's famous reefs there. And in the shots, you can see nearby are some, I guess you would call them islands, some rock outcroppings. And this is happening nearby to those. And so what you seem to see in this footage is they have a drone shooting it from above. So 10 years later, they've gone back to where they thought this occurred, and they've gotten actual good drone footage of it. And it appears that like the water starts separating, and you can kind of see the top of a submerged rocky outcropping. and where 2 or 3 or 4 waves all seem to come together simultaneously, and that vacancy of water is replaced by a massive upwelling of huge proportions, like 40, 50 meters, I think, up into the air, higher than the drone, allegedly. Anyway, it's fun. It's interesting. There is a reference in the video to the possibility, and it may be in the article as well, to the possibility of this having connections to the Bermuda Triangle and the phenomena of something sucking down, ships. But yeah, you can find out more about this over at vice.com. Australia's ocean glitch is a weird wave vortex nobody can fully explain. This is actually from last month, but hey, it's just January, folks. Lastly, we have over at phys.org, that's physics website.org, Austrian cow shows first case of flexible multipurpose tool use in cattle. This is just too cute to not share. This cow named Veronica has apparently been photographed, unless this is AI slop. I don't think so. I'm hoping this has been vetted and is real. But this cow apparently uses a stick or broom handle to scratch itself. Thus, tool use by an animal that, I think cattle are smarter than we think. We often mischaracterize them as being stupid or at least slow-witted. But yeah, this is a very cute story. And if verified, that's pretty awesome to see tool use in such an animal. But all right, well, that's going to be it for tonight's show. Today's show. This has been the January 28th, 2026 Anomaly Now from the Anomaly Archives here in Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Miles Lewis. Thank you for joining us. Oh, yes, you can go to our website, anomalyarchives.org. We have a P.O. box. We've got a phone number. We've got email. You can reach out to us if you have any questions or comments. Please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. All that stuff really does help. We do have coming up this coming Saturday morning is Susan Demeter presenting Through a Magical Lens, exploring the paranormal by means of occult practices. Very much looking forward to hearing what she has to say. Of course, she's somebody we've been very enamored with ever since really becoming aware of her back in like 2016, 2017, when she was one of the contributors to the fantastic UFOs Reframing the Debate book published by White Crow Publishing and edited by Robbie Graham. All right, that's going to be it. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, a good weekend, and we'll see you at Susan's presentation on Saturday morning. That's 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. She's on the other side of the world in Italy, so we wanted to make it easier for her. So hope you'll join us for that live presentation. Take care. Goodbye.